Everyone in this hall expects the Diamond Wolf to choose a Luna tonight. They are wrong. The old herald's words echoed through Blackthorn Palace as the great doors opened and the legendary creature entered the ceremonial hall. The Diamond Wolf was enormous, its silver-white coat shining beneath hundreds of crystal lanterns, its pale eyes calm and watchful. 6 Luna candidates stood in a perfect line, each chosen from a respected noble family. Their gowns were elegant, their names carried influence, and their families had spent years preparing for this moment. At the very back of the hall, Lily Carter carried a stack of freshly folded linens. She was 24, an Omega maid who had learned long ago that the safest place in the palace was wherever nobody noticed her. She had entered through the wrong corridor and realized her mistake only when the ceremonial bells began ringing. "You cannot be here," a noblewoman whispered sharply. Lily lowered her eyes. "I'm sorry. I was only delivering these." She turned toward the servants' entrance, hoping to leave unnoticed. Then the Diamond Wolf looked at her. The first Luna candidate stepped forward. The wolf stared at her for several seconds before releasing a deep, warning roar. She immediately stepped back. The second candidate approached. Another roar. Then the third. Another. One after another, the wolf rejected all 6. By the 4th candidate, the excitement in the hall had turned into confusion. By the 6th, everyone understood. The Diamond Wolf wanted none of them. Alpha King Ethan Blackwood stood above the ceremony, watching with an expression that revealed nothing. At 35, he was known for his calm authority, dark hair, sharp features, and steady gray eyes. He had seen the wolf recognize members of the royal family, but he had never seen it reject every Luna candidate. "There is no one else," the herald finally said. Ethan looked toward the empty end of the line. Then his eyes landed on Lily. "Accept her." Lily froze. "Your Majesty, I'm only a maid." The Diamond Wolf had already begun walking toward her. Lily stepped backward, clutching the linens against her chest. She suddenly felt the silver pendant beneath her dress press against her skin. Her mother, Rebecca Carter, had carried the pendant for years and had placed it around Lily's neck when Lily was very young, warning her never to remove it. Lily had obeyed for years without understanding why. Among her few belongings, she also kept a small wooden box Rebecca had left behind. It had remained locked for as long as Lily could remember. "Stay where you are," Ethan said quietly. Lily stopped. The wolf came within 6 feet of her. It did not roar. It did not growl. Instead, it stared directly at the pendant. Lily covered it instinctively with her hand. The creature lowered its massive head. The entire hall fell silent. Ethan slowly descended from the platform. He had seen the wolf reject 6 candidates, but now it was standing peacefully before a servant who had never been considered part of the ceremony. For the first time that night, Ethan wondered if the royal choosing had never truly been about choosing a Luna at all. No one in the great hall moved as the Diamond Wolf stood silently before Lily. The creature that had roared at every noble Luna candidate now seemed completely calm. Lily could feel hundreds of eyes on her, and she wished she could disappear. "Lily," Ethan said. She looked toward him. "Yes, Your Majesty?" "Come forward." Lily hesitated. "I think there has been a mistake." "So do I," Ethan replied. His eyes remained fixed on the pendant beneath her hand. Lily slowly stepped forward. The wolf did not move until she was close enough to see the pale silver reflections in its eyes. Then it lowered its head toward the pendant again. Ethan turned toward the royal archivist. "Thomas, do you recognize that symbol?" Thomas Reed, an elderly man who had served the palace archives for more than 40 years, approached carefully. His expression changed the moment he saw the pendant. "Where did you get that?" "My mother gave it to me when I was little." "Your mother's name?" "Rebecca Carter." Thomas went completely still. Ethan noticed. "You know the name?" Thomas looked toward the king. "Not as a simple maid." Lily frowned. "What does that mean?" Thomas opened an old archive book and turned several pages. Rebecca Carter entered this palace nearly 20 years ago under a false identity. Lily stared at him. My mother was a palace maid. That was the identity she used, Thomas said. The records suggest she came here to hide someone. Ethan's expression hardened. Who? Thomas looked directly at Lily. You. Lily felt the room seem smaller. Why would she hide me? Thomas pointed to the pendant. Because that symbol belongs to the Moon Sovereign bloodline. Ethan stepped closer. My father spent years searching for the last known Moon Sovereign descendant. We believed the bloodline had disappeared. Thomas shook his head. It was hidden, Your Majesty. Rebecca made sure it remained hidden. Lily looked between them. But why would my mother hide me inside the palace? Ethan answered quietly. Because hiding in plain sight can sometimes be safer than hiding far away. Thomas carefully examined the pendant. This symbol has not been seen openly in this palace for 20 years. Lily remembered Rebecca's warnings from childhood. Never remove it. Never give it away. And if anyone asks about it, tell them it is only a family keepsake. She had never understood the reason. The diamond wolf gently touched the pendant with its nose. A faint metallic click sounded beneath Lily's fingers. She looked down. Along the edge of the pendant was a tiny seam she had never noticed before. Ethan saw it too. That pendant may have been designed to open. Lily stared at him. There's something inside? Thomas nodded slowly. Perhaps. Lily remembered the small wooden box beneath her bed. Rebecca had left it with one instruction. Never open it unless someone comes looking for the pendant. She had always assumed that day would never come. Now the most powerful creature in the kingdom was standing beside her, while the king and royal archivist stared at the symbol her mother had protected for decades. Lily finally understood that the pendant was not simply a keepsake. It was a key to something her mother had spent her entire life hiding. By midnight, the central fortress had been placed under emergency protection. Ethan and his trusted beta, Lucas, descended into the royal archives to investigate Lily's history. Lucas brought records from 12 years earlier, when an unidentified child had been discovered near the northern border after a mysterious evacuation. The girl had no family documents and no known pack registration. She had been given the name Lily by the servants who found her and eventually assigned to the lowest maid quarters. Ethan studied the file in silence. One detail stood out. The original report mentioned that the child had been wearing a small piece of silver cloth embroidered with the same symbol now glowing on Lily's wrist. Lucas uncovered an older royal record describing the Moon Sovereign bloodline. The sovereigns had never belonged to the ordinary Alpha hierarchy, Ethan read quietly. Lucas nodded. Their bloodline existed outside the traditional Alpha-Beta-Omega ranking system. Ethan turned another page. The records explained that the Moon Sovereign bloodline had once served as the ancient covenant between the greater werewolf clans. An Alpha king ruled his own kingdom through political and military authority. The Moon Sovereign did not replace the Alpha king or automatically rule his kingdom. Instead, the sovereign carried an ancient authority to recognize legitimate clan leadership and unite the greater clans under the covenant. Ethan looked at Lily's file again. Then she isn't an Alpha. Lucas shook his head. No. Her biological rank is still Omega. The Moon Sovereign is not another biological rank. Its bloodline and authority exist outside the ordinary Alpha-Beta-Omega hierarchy. That explained why the Diamond Wolf had reacted to her. Lily was not secretly an Alpha pretending to be an Omega. She was an Omega carrying an ancient bloodline whose authority did not depend on biological rank. Before Ethan could process the discovery, a disturbance erupted in the servant quarters. 3 highborn attendants loyal to Evelyn confronted Lily, accusing her of hiding forbidden magic. Lily tried to explain that she had no idea what the crest meant, but they refused to listen. When one of them grabbed her sleeve, the silver mark reacted instinctively. A pulse of energy pushed them backward. Lily stared at her glowing wrist in fear. The power had not attacked them deliberately. It had simply protected her. Fragments of childhood suddenly returned to her mind, a woman whispering, "Never show them the mark," followed by snow, a carriage, and the sound of distant bells. Upstairs, Ethan felt his diamond wolf suddenly raise its head. The beast did not roar. Instead, it sent him a clear emotional message. Lily was frightened. Ethan immediately prepared to leave the archives. Before he left, Lucas's final note caught his attention. According to the oldest Moon Sovereign records, the protective power carried by the bloodline had another purpose. When the Sovereign Covenant was threatened, it could react to false oaths, forged authority, and hidden seals, revealing what had been concealed. Ethan finally understood the first truth about Lily's power. It was not designed to conquer. It was designed to protect, and, when necessary, reveal the truth. The oldest wing of Blackthorn Palace had been sealed for nearly 20 years. Few servants even knew the underground passage existed. Thomas led Lily and Ethan through a narrow stone corridor until they reached a massive door covered in ancient symbols. The diamond wolf walked ahead of them, then stopped before the door. Lily touched her pendant. The metal suddenly felt warm. "If the old records survived anywhere, they would be here," Thomas whispered. Ethan looked at Lily. "You don't have to go inside." Lily gave him a quiet look. "Everyone keeps telling me I have a choice." "You do." She nodded. "Then I choose the truth." Lily stepped toward the door. The wolf moved beside her. As she raised her pendant, the tiny seam opened with a soft click. Inside was a hidden compartment containing an old royal seal. Thomas recognized it immediately. Queen Eleanor. Ethan stared at the seal. "My grandmother." Thomas carefully unfolded a hidden message. "Rebecca, if Lily reaches this chamber, then the wolf has recognized her. Do not allow the crown to claim what belongs to the Moon Sovereign. Let her choose freely." Lily closed her eyes for a moment. Her mother had spent years preparing for this possibility without ever telling her. Thomas continued reading. "Rebecca Carter is not the sovereign. She is the protector of the final known sovereign descendant." Lily looked up. "So that means—" "You are the final known descendant of the Moon Sovereign bloodline," Thomas said. Ethan looked around the chamber. "My grandmother knew about Lily before I did." "She knew enough to make sure the bloodline survived," Thomas replied. Inside the chamber were portraits, ledgers, and records from an era when the Moon Sovereign stood beside the royal family. Lily noticed something strange in one portrait. A woman wearing a simple cloak stood beside a diamond wolf, while the king remained several steps behind them. "Who is she?" Lily asked. Thomas looked at the portrait. "The last confirmed bearer of the ancient guardian role." Lily studied the woman's face. "She doesn't look like royalty." "She wasn't meant to," Thomas replied. Lily frowned. "What was the guardian role?" Thomas pointed toward the old covenant records. The guardian was not a separate bloodline. It was an ancient role carried by the Moon Sovereign, protecting the covenant between the king and the greater clans. Lily looked at Ethan. "So I don't replace the king?" "No," Ethan said. "I rule this kingdom. Your authority is different. You can recognize and unite the greater clans under the ancient covenant." Lily looked back at the portrait. The final record explained that the diamond wolf would reject candidates who approached it seeking status, but it would recognize the rightful bearer of the ancient covenant when she stood before it by her own choice. Lily finally understood. The wolf had roared at every candidate because none of them carried what it had been waiting for. But the question that remained was more frightening. Why had the Moon Sovereign bloodline returned now? And why had her mother spent 20 years hiding her? By the time Lily returned to the Great Hall, the entire palace was waiting for the final Luna announcement. The 6 candidates stood in a line, surrounded by their families and supporters. Lily remained near Ethan, still wearing the plain brown dress she had worn while delivering linens. The contrast was impossible to miss. The candidates had spent years preparing to become Luna. Lily had spent years trying not to be noticed. Yet the diamond wolf walked directly beside her. Thomas carried the ancient records under his arm. "The court will not accept this easily," he warned. Ethan looked toward the council. "They don't have to accept it immediately." Lily studied him. "Are you going to tell them who I am?" "Only if you want me to." She was surprised. "You could simply announce it." "I could," Ethan said. "But that would make the decision for you." His words reminded Lily of her mother. "Never let anyone decide your future for you." She looked down at the pendant. "Then don't announce anything yet." Ethan nodded. The first Luna candidate stepped forward. The diamond wolf immediately released the same deep roar. She returned to her place. The second candidate stepped forward. Another roar. The pattern continued. By the sixth candidate, the meaning was undeniable. The wolf rejected every one of them. The court began whispering. One councilman stood. "Your Majesty, this ceremony cannot continue like this." Ethan looked at him. "Why not?" "Because the kingdom needs a Luna." "The kingdom needs the truth," Ethan replied. The councilman frowned. "Tradition cannot simply be discarded." Lily watched silently. She understood that Ethan was no longer fighting only for her. He was deciding whether the crown would continue treating people as pieces on a political board. Thomas stepped forward and opened the ancient record. The moon sovereign tradition predates the current Luna ceremony. The diamond wolf was never created simply to choose a royal bride. The hall erupted in whispers. One noblewoman pointed toward Lily. "Then why is that servant standing here?" Ethan answered calmly. "Because the wolf brought her here." Lily felt the weight of every stare. She could have walked away. Nobody would have blamed her. Instead, she remembered Rebecca's letter and the woman in the ancient portrait. She stepped forward. The diamond wolf immediately stopped roaring. It turned toward her. Lily took another step. The wolf followed. The court became silent. She stopped in the center of the hall. The creature came within a few feet of her and looked directly into her eyes. Then it turned toward the royal throne. It looked back at Lily. Thomas suddenly understood. "It isn't asking her to become Luna," he whispered. "It is recognizing the bearer of the ancient covenant." Lily looked toward the empty space beside the throne. She realized the entire ceremony had been searching for the wrong answer. The wolf had rejected every Luna candidate because it was not waiting for a woman chosen by the court. It was waiting for the woman who would choose for herself. Ethan stepped back. "Lily," he said quietly, "whatever happens next is your decision." Lily took another step forward. The diamond wolf lowered its head. The ancient silver symbol on her pendant began to glow. And before the entire kingdom, the creature that had roared at every Luna candidate prepared to make the recognition that had been hidden for generations. Rain poured across the fortress courtyard as Marcus's supporters gathered before the royal gates. Ethan emerged despite the danger, with Lily walking beside him. The diamond wolf remained close beneath Ethan's consciousness, powerful but controlled. Marcus raised his sword. "An alpha king who allows an omega maid to influence royal law is no longer fit to rule." Ethan looked at him calmly. "You believe rank creates worth." "Rank creates order," Marcus replied. "Without it, the strongest clans will fight for dominance. The hierarchy is what keeps this kingdom together." Several soldiers hesitated. They had followed Marcus because they feared what would happen if the old system disappeared. Marcus continued. "You call it oppression. I call it stability." Lily stepped forward. She did not attack them. She simply raised her glowing wrist. The silver crest illuminated the courtyard. Memories from her childhood returned with sudden clarity. She remembered Rebecca telling her. The moon sovereign was never meant to replace the alpha kings. The sovereign exists to remind rulers that power is a responsibility, not a birthright. Lily finally understood what her bloodline was meant to do. She closed her eyes and allowed the ancient energy to expand. The first wave was weak. It barely reached the fountain. Lily almost lost her balance. Ethan instinctively moved toward her. But Lily raised a hand. "Trust me." He stopped. That was the moment Ethan truly changed. Earlier, he had protected Lily because his diamond wolf recognized her. Now he stepped back because Lily had asked him to trust her. The diamond wolf lowered its head. Lily drew a breath and released the second wave. Silver light spread across the courtyard. It did not destroy weapons. It did not control minds. Instead, it passed over the seals and documents carried by Marcus's supporters. Hidden markings appeared. Forged royal seals became visible. Secret agreements and concealed orders surfaced beneath the ancient light. The soldiers stared in disbelief. The evidence showed that Marcus had manipulated council members and secretly arranged the coup to preserve his influence over the Alpha clans. His fear of disorder had been genuine. But his methods had crossed the very line he claimed to protect. One soldier slowly lowered his weapon. Then another. Marcus's authority began to collapse. Ethan stepped beside Lily. The coup leaders will face a public trial under royal law. He turned toward the entire courtyard. No one will be punished for the rank they were born into. No one will be rewarded simply because of it. Lily looked at him. The old Alpha King who had once believed he had to control every outcome was no longer standing beside her merely as her protector. He was becoming her partner. But the coup was not the only battle left. Several distant Alpha clans had already refused to recognize Lily's claim. The fortress remained tense after Marcus's surrender. His supporters were placed under lawful custody while investigators gathered evidence of the coup. Marcus himself was stripped of command and brought before the High Council, where he defended his actions without pretending innocence. He admitted that he had believed the hierarchy was the only thing preventing the clans from destroying one another. But when the evidence revealed that he had manipulated council members and endangered the king to preserve his position, even his former allies turned away. Ethan refused to order immediate punishment. Instead, he demanded a formal trial under the same laws Marcus had once claimed to defend. The decision surprised the nobles. Lily understood why. If the new era was supposed to be based on fairness, it could not begin with arbitrary revenge. Meanwhile, the revelation of Lily's identity spread throughout the kingdom. She was confirmed as the last known heir of the Moon Sovereign bloodline. But that did not automatically make her queen. The ancient covenant required the sovereign to choose whether to accept the role. If Lily refused, the covenant would remain dormant and Ethan would continue as Alpha King. If she accepted, she would become the ancient counterpart to the Alpha throne, carrying the authority to recognize legitimate clan leadership and unite the greater clans under the covenant. Ethan found her alone near the old gardens. "You don't have to accept any crown," he told her. Lily looked toward the palace where she had spent 12 years serving others. "What happens if I say no?" "You remain Lily." She smiled faintly. "And if I say yes?" Ethan answered, "Then you remain Lily, but thousands of people will expect you to help them build something better." Lily thought about the girl who had once hidden behind a pillar because she believed she was worthless. Then she looked at Ethan. He did not command her. He waited. That was when Lily realized the greatest proof that Ethan had changed was not that he protected her. It was that he was willing to let her walk away. The diamond wolf appeared in Ethan's eyes only as a quiet reflection of the bond between them. Lily reached out and touched its forehead. "I don't want a crown because I'm special," she whispered. "I want it if I can use it to make sure no child grows up believing they are worthless because of their rank." Ethan smiled. "Then we build it together." But before the coronation could be announced, the High Council delivered troubling news. Several distant Alpha clans had refused to recognize Lily's claim. The coup was over. The political struggle had only begun. 3 days after Marcus's failed coup, the Grand Hall was filled again. But this time there were no Luna candidates waiting beneath the royal crest. Delegates from neighboring clans had arrived to decide whether they would recognize the Moon Sovereign Covenant. Some supported Lily. Others argued that an Omega could never carry such ancient authority. Lily stood before them in a simple silver gown, refusing the elaborate crown prepared by the royal court. Then she looked across the grand hall. She recognized the exact place where she had stood during the royal choosing. The same marble floor. The same royal crest. The same place where 6 noble Luna candidates had once stepped forward, each expecting the diamond wolf to choose her. Lily remembered herself standing at the back of that hall with a broom in her hands, trying to disappear among the shadows. Now she stood in the very place where the candidates had once competed for a crown. But this time, she was not standing there to be chosen. She was there because she had chosen. Ethan stood beside her, but he did not speak for her. The council waited. Lily finally stepped forward. "I am an Omega," she said. The hall became silent. "I will not pretend otherwise. I spent 12 years being told that my rank made me less important. I know what that feels like." She looked toward the gathered clans. "But the Moon Sovereign bloodline does not exist to make Omegas greater than Alphas." Her voice strengthened. "It exists to remind every rank that power does not make someone worthy. Character does." Some delegates still resisted. One elder demanded that Ethan publicly command Lily to accept the crown. Only the Alpha King can stabilize the ceremony. Ethan refused. "She will choose for herself." The statement shocked the room. It also became the final proof Lily needed. The old hierarchy had already begun to change. Lily looked at the crown. Then she looked at Ethan. Then at the people who had once known her only as a maid. "I accept the responsibility." She did not accept the crown because her blood forced her to. She accepted it because she had chosen what she wanted to do with the authority placed in her hands. She became the Moon Sovereign Luna beside Ethan's Alpha throne, not as a replacement for the king, but as the ancient counterpart whose authority could recognize and unite the greater clans. Her first proposal was a new covenant. Rank would remain part of pack identity, but it could no longer determine a person's education, legal protection, employment, or right to speak before the council. Leadership would be earned through character and ability. The proposal passed after hours of debate. It was not a magical transformation of society. It was the beginning of one. Later, Ethan found Lily on the balcony overlooking the valley. He admitted that he had once believed being king meant always knowing the right answer. Lily smiled. "Perhaps being king means knowing when to listen." Ethan laughed softly. The diamond wolf appeared within his spirit and looked toward Lily. Instead of roaring, it lowered its massive head. Lily touched its forehead. For the first time, she understood. The creature had never been bowing to her rank. It had been bowing to the truth inside her. By morning, Blackthorn Palace had changed. The story of the diamond wolf kneeling before an Omega maid had spread throughout the kingdom. People who had once overlooked Lily now spoke her name with respect. But Lily did not want admiration simply because of her bloodline. She wanted the truth about her mother to be remembered. Ethan opened the royal archives and restored Rebecca Carter's name to the official records. The documents confirmed that Rebecca had spent nearly 20 years protecting Lily from those who wanted to use the Moon Sovereign bloodline for political power. Queen Eleanor had trusted Rebecca because she understood that the ancient covenant was never meant to belong to the crown. Thomas also released the original Moon Sovereign records, allowing the kingdom to learn what had been hidden for generations. The old Luna choosing tradition was changed. No woman would be considered worthy solely because of her family, rank, or political connections. Those who wanted a place within the royal court would be allowed to choose it freely. Those who did not would be respected for choosing another path. After the formal trial, Marcus and the remaining coup leaders were stripped of their positions and sentenced according to the revised royal law. Their punishment was not based on being alphas. It was based on what they had chosen to do. That distinction mattered. Months after the night that changed the kingdom, Lily stood on the palace balcony beside Ethan. Below them, the diamond wolf rested peacefully in the courtyard. Lily touched the silver pendant beneath her collar. Do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't taken that wrong turn? Ethan smiled. I think the wolf would have found another way to bring you there. Lily laughed softly. You really believe that? After everything we've seen? He looked toward the wolf. Yes. Lily thought about the night she had entered the great hall carrying linens, embarrassed because she believed she had walked into a place where she did not belong. She remembered every roar that had echoed through the palace. One candidate. Another roar. Another candidate. Another roar. 6 noble women had been rejected. Then Lily had appeared, wearing a simple brown maid's dress, carrying nothing but linens and the pendant her mother had protected. The diamond wolf had stopped. It had recognized something nobody else could see. And when the time came, it had done something no one expected. It had folded its massive front legs and knelt before her. Lily finally understood why. The wolf had never been honoring a crown. It had never been searching for the most beautiful woman in the kingdom. It had been recognizing the final bearer of the Moon Sovereign Covenant, the Omega Maid who had been hidden in plain sight and judged worthless by the very hierarchy she would later help reform. Ethan looked at her. Do you regret walking into that hall? Lily smiled. Not for a second. Below them, the diamond wolf lifted its head. Lily placed her hand over the pendant and looked toward the kingdom beyond the palace walls. Her mother had spent 20 years making sure Lily would one day have a choice. Now she finally understood what that choice meant. She would not become important because destiny had chosen her. She would become important because she chose what to do with the trust destiny had placed her. And the kingdom that once overlooked an Omega Maid would never again measure her, or anyone else, by rank alone. The diamond wolf had roared at every Luna candidate. But before the rejected Omega Maid who never asked to be chosen, it had done something no one in Blackthorn Palace would ever forget. It had knelt.